Welcome to the STARS program, seniors taking active roles in society. And now, here's your host, ANITA FINLEY.
Okay, well, we are having a wonderful conversation with Tom Strawser, who is an author of a couple of books. One's called Totally Within, Unleash Your Inner Superpower, and the other is Spiritual Engineering, because that's how Tom started. Well, let's just go back a minute into your career, because this is so different from what you were doing when you first were educated, wasn't it?
Oh, quite different, quite different.
Why don't you talk about that?
Oh, I was an engineer. I went to college, I graduated as chemical engineering, and then did a number of different things and got into the petroleum industry. So I worked as a petroleum engineer, and I worked all over this country, the Middle East. I was in Europe for a while. I've been to China working, just worked as an engineer, as a petroleum engineer.
And so, worked in China, when you think about it. Now, this must be shocking to you, what's happening.
Oh, it is. And I love that. I had such wonderful experiences in China, and I was actually out in Western China for a while, and in Urumqi, and worked there. And it was just great. Most of the people there, 90% of them, did not speak any English, but they were just friendly as could be.
But you didn't need to.
I had a translator with me, an interpreter that worked with us. I worked at the compound there, the petroleum.
But this was during, really was big communism time.
Oh yeah,
this wasn't
absolutely.
Even
yeah,
now they're
yeah.
a little bit more entrepreneurial.
Oh yeah, right. And it's just when they were starting, and so I was there in Beijing, and that area. It was really nice. But I just that's one of the things I found too, Anita. The people, when you get to the people were great. I lived in the Middle East, and I lived beside a mosque in the Middle East, and it's just the people are great. The people I've been met, no matter what their religion or social or political outlooks were, when you get down to the level of the people, it's quite different.
And in reading your books, when you say unleash your power, your power, your spiritual power, everybody, no matter where they come from, I was just thinking about what you were saying, whether they work the fields or whether they come into high society, they all have certain power.
That's right.
And it could be with their family that they're using it, or it's in business. And what made you concentrate on this?
I went through a lot of hard times in my life, and actually I was as I worked through everything, I developed into active alcoholic. And I hit the bottom of the barrel. I lost everything, did everything, and did what a person like that in that condition does. And as I was coming out of it, I found recovery, and that's where I started really discovering that this God within, this power within, this energy within each person to help me in recovery. And then I expanded and found it just doesn't have to do with recovery. This is the power that can break the shackles of addiction, can break the bonds of alcohol, can self-will and misery and things like that. This power just has so much, and every person has it. And as you know, I also got a master's degree in psychology, and as I did that, I studied a lot of Abraham Maslow and some of the different ones. And I love Maslow because he's the one that came along and he studied exceptional people. He didn't study the people, like most psychologists do, with problems and things like that. He studied the people who had an exceptional life. Yeah. And he wanted to know what made those people different than the other people, than the others. And he found that these people who had this exceptional life, they had found something within them that just made them look at everything, handle everything. They could handle adversity, they could handle upsets in a way that was totally different. And the interesting thing, at the end of his life, he studied this in a lot of different places, these exceptional people. And he said that only one person in 100, less than 1% of the people, ever learned to live at this, what he called the elite, the apex of humanity, the very top of humanity. And the ones who had learned to live in that 1% had actually learned to tap into an inner spiritual source that changed their entire life. And that's what I was finding. So I was quite fascinated with that, and that's what I have tried to help people. Everybody has this inner power, this wonderful energy, actual energy inside of them that can shift their attitude, change the way they think, and just change their whole life But again, like Maslow, I've been doing it for 30-some years, and I can find 1% of the people still out there doing it. Not very many people ever learn to tap into this power.
Do you think it comes from families, too, that what you've seen in a family? Or do you think it's just out there, or do you think it's through education? How do you think someone has that?
I think most of the people, and that's one of the things I really, again, back to the psychologist, William James is the father of American psychology, and James wrote a book at the Edinburgh Lectures called The Variety of Religious Experience. And that's the thing that James found, he found the same thing, that people had this wonderful inner experience, this shift, and didn't have anything to do with religion. It had to do with going through some hard times, through adversity, and being down so much that you realize that you don't have the answers for everything in life. You don't have the power. You don't have the power to change other people. You don't have the power to control, like we were speaking, the political climate that's out there. You can't do any of that. But you can find this power within yourself that shifts how you react to it and how you handle it. And that's what James found again. And he found it didn't have anything to do with religion, family, or anything. It had to do with actually a person going through some real adversity and being open to something different than what society and culture tells us.
Okay, well, let's go back to the adversity. Not everybody can escape that and jump up and then, as you did, and then create something different. Some people commit suicide.
Yes.
Some people never can stop with their addiction. So what makes the difference in that? Is it something inside them? I mean,
something inside of them. One of the things that I've found, one of the hardest things everyone has, and this wonderful spiritual energy inside of them. It's an actual energy that can shift. But the only thing, it's like electricity, and we don't have to understand electricity. If we have sitting in the room, we have a light bulb and a lamp, and we want to turn the light on to read. We don't have to understand how electricity's made back at the power plant, how it gets down those lines and gets in that little box in the wall. We don't have to understand any of that. All we have to do is plug the light in and turn the lamp on, and the light changes right there. But think of the transformation in that light bulb. As soon as the energy hits it, that light bulb changes from a light bulb into a light. Like that. And that's what we do. We don't have to understand this energy. Don't even have to believe in it. All we have to do is take some steps to help us tap into it, access it, like plugging in the light. And that's what we try to do. Help people. Every person has this inside of them, but how do you tap into it? That's one of the biggest questions out there around the whole world. Like I said, I've talked to people actually, and part of what, when you met my wife Patricia when we were in China.
She's a fantastic woman. I'm sorry you didn't bring her today.
But we were over there, and we got a chance to do talk to all the psychiatrists and psychologists in Beijing, and do workshops with them on this wonderful inner power. And long as we didn't, it's not a religion, and explained it to them as a source of energy, they were very receptive. We did relationship workshops and things like that. But this is with all the psychiatrists and psychologists there who were perfectly willing to accept it. But it wasn't religion. It was an idea of every person has an energy that they can shift and turn.
Yeah, and looking at Totally Within, which is, and I love your cover, I did the minute I saw it, but people, when you read the book, every single page has a title on the top.
Yes.
That's unique, and that was great because sometimes people don't want to take the time to read the book, but once they read it, it's just like, we slide, we don't fall into complacency. So another one, pray for values, not things, and for growth, not gratification. And every page has something. We need never hurry to achieve spiritual growth or emotional maturity. Trading values for short-term gratification is always a losing trade. Our mind shapes our life. We become what we think. Every one, and it's only one page that enhances that, explains that title. That was a brilliant thing you did in this book.
I tried to give people, and I know my life and everything, I remember sentences. When I'm out there and I'm hurting, I remember phrases, just certain things. I don't remember pages and chapters and books. I remember the sentence. That's what comes into my mind, and sometimes that brings me the relief. And actually today's is a great example. I post these on the internet and post them on Facebook and different places, and it was one of the hardest ones as I worked through this over the last 30 years. Hardest ones I had to actually believe. I heard it, and I thought, no, it can't be. But that saying is, when I'm disturbed, no matter what the cause, there's something wrong with me.
Oh, it's not the issue.
It's never the other
you.
person. It's never going on.
Disturbed.
It doesn't mean I have to be a doormat. It means that my reaction, I have to find a way to react and handle this without having that disturbance inside. I mean, just stop and think. If you get angry, how much does that add to solving a problem? It doesn't. It just creates more problems. And I have to be able to learn to keep my poise and to be able to be at peace myself, and I can find better solutions. One of the other things I've learned, this saying reflects one of the biggest teachings that we have here, is that every person out there listening, every person actually leads two lives every day, and they don't even think about it. They leave the outer life where they go to work, they have the family, they drive the car, they get in, pay bills, all that, but they really have the inner life. And that's that life that sits inside of us, where our mind is going through that mental self-talk, and we're going through, and we either have the peace and the quiet and the poise, or we have chaos inside of us. And one of the best things anybody can ever learn is you don't have to let the outer life determine the inner life. You can go to this inner life and back up, and a lot of the people who do meditation, they've discovered this, but it's really every person out there listening today has that inner life and the outer life, and 99% of them let the outer life dictate how they feel, how they react, what they think, and we don't have to. We have the power to change that.
It's funny, and I've had a long listening audience. I mean, I've been doing this a long time, and we had a doctor for 10 years on every single week. And this doctor's name was Dr. Mencia, and he was probably the best doctor you could ever go to. He was kind, he was wonderful, he was into all the Asian arts, he knew that, and somehow through criminal people working there, they did something that he had to take the blame for, prescriptions and all. He wound up going to prison, and just wrote me. I'm just sharing this because a lot of people have asked me about it. I know where he is. I haven't seen him, but he just wrote me a 10-page letter about everything. And what he's doing, he's there for 6 years, and it was not right. He was wrongfully accused of something, but what he's done is it was a beautiful letter saying he's helping people there. He's doing all these kinds of things, and he's lost his medical license and all, and it's very sad, but yet it made me think when you said that it's not what's on the outside and what happened to him. He's sorry it happened. It wasn't right, but he's now in a place where he's doing the best he can for everybody where he is.
That's great.
That's exactly what I know. I didn't share this with anyone. It just happened. I just got the letters, and I've not told anyone about this. So I am telling all Dr. Mencia's friends, that that's what he's doing. He's surviving.
See, that's what I call a mature personality, because we have life is not fair. I mean,
life is not fair.
Things hit us, things happen, and a lot of things happen. But everything that happens, I have a choice on how I'm going to go through it. Everything that happens, I have a choice on how I'm going to go through this. I'm going to go through it, no matter what. I mean, if I've had times in my life when I've been hurt, I've almost died, I've had different things. I'm going to go through that. My wife just finished. We had a bout with cancer, 2 different types of cancer, and that's one of the things we are going to go through that day through day through day after day. How we go through it, we have a choice every moment, every morning. We wake up. How are we going to go through this day? Are we going to take the negative and all that, or are we going to get what we can get out of this? And like your friend discovered, one of the best ways to change the way I think is to work with other people and help other people. And one of the biggest discoveries I had is I'm not the center of the universe. I'm not. I'm, this thing about, this me. Yeah, I am not the center of anybody's universe or anything else. I've just got my own little place in this, and how I can go through each day. The secret is, what can I do for another person to get outside of me?
And I want to share some other idea I was thinking. When you'd say people have been educated, they're an engineer, the first thing, maybe not in everybody's mind, engineer, oh, okay, someone works at a desk and he's not a philosopher and all, but somehow you chose to be an engineer, but you really had some other stuff going. Of course, you did take psychology, but the reason you took psychology is because you were interested in more than just the numbers, right?
Right. Oh, I want to figure out how my mind works. Everybody, we live and die with this thing we call mind. This mind every day, how we think. And I would started thinking of something and I couldn't stop. Do you ever worry? Nobody makes a choice to worry. Nobody says, well, I'm going to sit here and worry. I'm going to upset my night. I'm going to get upset. I'm going to get tense. I'm going to worry. Yeah, I'm going to go enjoy this. Nobody makes a choice. We just automatically move into worry. A thought hits us and it starts nurturing. It's like a worm up here in our mind, and then we start to worry. And I should be able to stop this. And I've learned now I have not worried for years. and bad things have happened. I mean, life happens out there. It's not fair. Things happen.
Like when your wife discovered she had cancer,
right,
that was pretty.
We don't need to worry. We don't need
just do something
choose.
About it. And
but it's all here in our mind.
Yeah.
How can we direct and control this mind so it becomes our best friend instead of our worst enemy?
I love it. My guest is Thomas J. Strawser. He's an author of a wonderful couple of books, but Totally Within is the book we featured. He was in Book of the Month for us. And Unleash Your Inner Superpower. Mindfulness to build spiritual muscle. That's good. It's part of the Spiritual Engineering series. I'm going to give you his phone number that you can contact him if you would like. Remember, this is Pencil Talk Radio, so write this down and put it in a secure place somewhere. Don't lose it. It's 303-416-0900. Again, 303-416-0900. And I'd love for you to purchase at least the one book we featured was Totally Within. It's not expensive, but it's one of the best books. You're going to really get so much from this. There's so many pages. Let's see, I'm going to tell you right now how many. Well, what he did is he went through a whole year, every day. That's what he did. And he put glorious one-page gems, pearls. And everyone seemed to everyone seemed to be right for me. It was like you were writing it for me.
Oh, thank you.
It's been really hard, but you're right. And before we run out of time, just give me a very brief idea of what your childhood was like, what your parents were like.
Oh, my father, I committed suicide when I was 2. I was the youngest of 11.